The morning of my wedding should have been filled with joy. The apartment was still dark when I woke, yet my heart pounded with hope. Nerves fluttered through me, but I clung to the belief that today, finally, everything might change. For once, I wouldn't be the shadow trailing behind my family's favorite. For once, eyes would be on me, not Vanessa, my perfect older sister. Hours later, in the tiny church dressing room, I unzipped the garment bag and pulled out the ivory gown I'd worked myself raw to afford. It wasn't extravagant, no glittering diamonds, no designer label like Vanessa's engagement dress, but it was mine. Every stitch was a piece of me. Overtime shifts, skipped dinners, nights spent counting coins until my fingers ached, laying it gently across the chair. I almost cried with pride. The door creaked open. My mother's heels clicked against the wooden floor. Her perfume stung the air as her cold eyes scanned me like I was clutter she wished she could throw away. "Well," she said flatly, "at least you look less pitiful than usual." I bit back the ache in my chest. This was nothing new, but then her gaze shifted to the gown, and her expression sharpened. "You really think wearing that will make people forget who you are?" "Mum," I whispered, trying to steady myself. "It's my wedding day, please. Just for one day, no insults." Her lips curved, but the smile was cruel. It was the same expression Vanessa wore whenever she cornered me as a child. She moved closer, plucked a white candle from the dresser, and before I could stop her, tilted the flame toward my dress. "Mum, no." I lunged forward. The smell hit me first, burning fabric, then smoke curled upward as the hem sizzled. I slapped frantically at the ember, but the delicate lace blackened and collapsed, leaving an ugly scar across what I had sacrificed so much to own. Frozen, trembling, I could only stare as she smirked at my horror. "There," she said smoothly, "rags suit you better. Wouldn't want you stealing attention when your sister walks in. Perfect hair, perfect dress, like always." The words cut deeper than the fire. My wedding gown, destroyed by my own mother, my day, shattered before it began. I wanted to scream, to cry, to collapse. Instead, all I heard was her laughter fading as the door slammed shut behind her. I stared at the scorched fabric in my hands, smoke still curling from the blackened lace. My chest rose and fell in jagged bursts. My mother had stolen pieces of me all my life, one insult at a time, one humiliation after another. But this wasn't just cruelty. This was a public execution. She wanted me standing at the altar in tatters so Vanessa could shine brighter. Tears blurred my vision, but beneath them, something hotter stirred, something sharper than the flame she'd pressed to my dress. If she wanted me in rags, fine, let her laugh now. By the end of this day, it wouldn't be me wearing shame, it would be her. I sat clutching the ruined gown for what felt like hours. The fabric still warm between trembling fingers. The smoke had faded, but the stink of humiliation clung to the room. From down the hall, I heard laughter, her laughter, my mother's sharp, cutting voice braided with Vanessa's smug giggle. Of course my sister had arrived early, sweeping in like the star of a show that wasn't hers. For a split second, I thought about running, canceling everything, escaping before the whispers could drown me. But then I caught my reflection in the cracked mirror. My eyes were swollen, red from crying, but behind them burned something new, a fire that didn't consume dresses, it consumed lies, facades, masks. I wiped my cheeks dry, lifted the ruined gown, and pulled it over my head anyway. The jagged hole near the hem gaped like an open wound, daring me to hide. I didn't. If they thought this would embarrass me, they'd miscalculated. They'd forgotten who I was. As I stepped into the corridor, their voices floated toward me. "She really thinks she's the bride?" Vanessa snickered. "She looks like she's playing dress up in a thrift store." "Don't worry," Mum replied smoothly. "Everyone will see what she is. Nothing." I froze at the door, my nails biting into my palms. Let 'em laugh. Let 'em think they'd already won. They had no idea what I'd been building in the shadows. While they mocked me, I was gathering every lie, every cruelty, Every secret they thought was buried too deep to ever surface. It started weeks ago, when Daniel, my fiancé, sat me down with disgust written across his face. He showed me the late-night texts from Vanessa, her pathetic attempts to lure him away, whispering that I wasn't wife material, that he'd regret marrying me. He asked me to keep it quiet. I did, but a seed had been planted. That seed grew as I remembered everything. Mum draining my college fund to buy Vanessa a car, Dad pocketing half the charity money he paraded around town, the cruel text Mum once sent me by accident, "At least Vanessa isn't an embarrassment like Jessica. One decent daughter is enough." I still had it saved. Piece by piece, I built a folder on my laptop, screenshots, receipts, recordings captured when arrogance made them sloppy. And now, standing outside the hall packed with their adoring guests, I realized this wasn't just a wedding, it was a stage. I slipped my phone into my dress pocket and walked in. Chandeliers glittered overhead, laughter swelled, and false congratulations floated through the air. Vanessa sat in her designer gown, her smug smile sharpening when her eyes caught the burned patch on mine. Mum leaned in, her voice loud enough for half the room to hear. "Rags really do match her worth." Laughter rippled across the tables. I didn't flinch. I walked straight past the whispers, straight into Daniel's arms. His face softened when he saw the damage, then hardened as his gaze flicked toward my mother. "What did she do?" he whispered. "Later," I murmured. "Not yet." Because my revenge wasn't going to be quiet. It would be loud enough to crack the mask they'd worn for years, to bring their perfect little empire down in front of the very people they craved validation from. I stood tall, letting their smirks wash over me like smoke. For the first time, I didn't feel small, I felt dangerous. The music swelled, guests rose, the church doors opened. I stepped forward in my scorched gown, the faint smell of burnt lace clinging to me like a warning. Whispers followed me down the aisle, glances darting from my ruined hem to Vanessa's polished perfection. Let 'em stare. By the time the music stopped, it wouldn't be me they pitied, it would be them, begging for mercy I would never give. Mum leaned toward a guest, her voice just loud enough to cut me. "Rags match her soul." Dad chuckled beside her. I didn't break. I didn't cry. I reached the altar, took Daniel's hand, and faced the crowd. My voice rang clear. "Before we begin, I have something to say." Gasps rippled through the church. The pastor froze mid-breath. "Jessica, sit down," my mother hissed. "Here she goes again," Vanessa muttered, smirking. But then I pulled out my phone. With a tap, the projector flickered to life, filling the wall behind me with words that weren't mine. My mother's text: "Vanessa will always be my only real daughter. Jessica is just a mistake that stuck around." The silence was sharp enough to cut glass. Mum's face drained of color. "Still think I'm a mistake?" I asked, steady as steel. Before anyone could breathe, I swiped. New words appeared. Vanessa's late-night messages to Daniel. "She's not enough for you. Pick me. You won't regret it." The crowd erupted in gasps. Daniel lifted his chin, his grip tightening on my hand. "I did pick someone better," he said, voice carrying across the pews. "And it wasn't you, Vanessa." Vanessa shot to her feet, her face blazing red. "You're lying," she screamed, but the glowing wall betrayed her. Guests shifted, whispering, some covering their mouths, others glaring. And I wasn't done. Another swipe. Donation records, receipts, evidence. My father's theft in black and white. "You stole from us?" someone shouted. Dad lurched up, red-faced. "This is slander." "No," I said, firm. "This is truth. The truth about the family who burned my dress, who mocked me my entire life, who tried to ruin even my wedding day." The room exploded. Gasps, shouts, some guests storming out, others recording every second. Mum lunged toward me, but I lifted the charred hem of my gown for all to see. This was her doing. She wanted me in rags, but the only rags here are your lies. The church went still. My mother froze, every eye pinning her in place. Daniel leaned close, his voice low but certain. "They'll never recover from this." And he was right. By the time the ceremony ended, my parents weren't admired, they were disgraced. Vanessa's tears fooled no one. Dad's shouting only deepened the shame. Mum's glare turned her into a villain caught in the act. That day, I didn't just marry Daniel. I buried the golden image they'd built, thread by thread, lie by lie. And as I walked out of the church, sunlight striking the ruined lace at my hem, I finally felt it, freedom. They wanted me in rags. Instead, I left them in ruins.